At our autograph session on Wednesday, it could be Adelaide by the time we get to Sunday afternoon. The Castrol Mustang topping the timesheets at the end of the second practice session as we gear up for Umrall qualifying later today. But for now, the Fanatec GT World Challenge powered by AWS is on the Adelaide Street Circuit. So we welcome you back to our Friday coverage here on Fox Sports. Andy Jones and Matt Nolte with you for this one. A 40-minute race for the penultimate race, Andy Jones, in this series. But what about qualifying earlier today? How cool?
It was super, super cool. I'm still struggling to move past Thomas Randall with a black marker just colouring in the top of the U down at Rundle Mall.
It was a sticker. He didn't graffiti. It was a sticker, yeah.
Disappointed me. But you're right. Yeah, qualifying this morning was terrific. There was plenty going on. We had this wet circuit to start the AM session that ended up sort of semi-dry towards the end with a little bit of a drying line, and then when the AMs came out later, straight after the... Sorry, let me try that all over again. We got the pro guys coming out after the AMs. I'm tripping over my tongue here, unfortunately. Apologies to everybody at home. Short of it was that we ended up with Yasser Shahin's car on the pole for both qualifying sessions in the hands of Yasser, but also in the hands of Matty Campbell as well. And he was drafted in for this weekend, and he's delivered so far, hasn't he?
What in that session? We only got 5 minutes of qualifying time in the end with a red flag that was lengthy for the second session. But for now, Yasser Shahin will start the EMA Ben Motorsport Park Porsche on the front row with Liam Talbot, Brad Schumacher and Jeff Emery. Matt Stupas in the KFC Audi has Renee Gracie for country. She was as high as second earlier today in qualifying. She moves up into the AM class in a Evo 2 Audi. Tom McLennan, Mike Sheargold, James Konduras, Jeff Taunton, back to Chris Batsios, a long way down for this one in the Volante Rosso Mercedes-Benz. But a 40-minute race. We've been running the 1-hour races all year long in the Fanatec GT World Challenge. Mandatory pit stop. We'll get to that during this of a minimum of 87 seconds. But if you did well at the previous round, you'll have some time added to that of 15, 10 and 5. We'll get to that as the race unfolds. Overcast conditions on the streets of Adelaide, but it's Porsche and Audi as we go green in race number 1, the Fanatec GT World Challenge. And the charge to turn number 1, give it to Shahin for the first time. Gracie across the curbs. We can see Marcus Flack being moved as well in the number 78 Porsche. But Shahin leads us up to the top of Wakefield Street.
And at the end of this championship year, we have this enthralling battle at the front of this field. The 2 championship combatants lead us away. And you went, oh, it looked like Liam Talbot was going to run into the back of Yasser Shahin's Porsche there on the run up to turn 3 in the braking zone. No such issue though. They didn't make contact, and Yasser will lead down the back straight and on the run up to the very famous turn 8 here for the first time.
Now, why is Liam Talbot wanting to push along? Well, he's got an additional 10 seconds of pit stop time. So he wants to get past this Porsche as quick as he can and put that margin out to get himself in a good position when he swaps over in the pit stop cycle during this race.
And conversely, on the other side of the card table, playing a very different hand, is Yasser Shahin. He's saying, I don't want you to get past. He's parking it up the middle. Oh, that's McLennan. Always awkward down at the hairpin, but it looks like we're going to get away with that okay. Was Mark Sini involved in that there? Looked like he was off to the left. Is there any contact or damage to the front of the number 9 entry? We'll have a look as it comes around. This is where this big gap is here.
Yeah, he was in the wars yesterday looking at ground level. That used to be a concrete curb there, but when we came back last year, they ripped that out. It's now just a painted concrete piece on the way down to centre chicane. So Mark Sini, I did see the Batsios Mercedes-Benz make a bit of contact there with the right rear tyre. So we'll keep an eye on the Batsios car that he's sharing with Jaden Ojeda, moving across into the 34 car for Volante Rosso Motorsport for this round. And that's blown the field apart after that little traffic jam. We're used to that in the afternoons, not probably at 1:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah, we've now got this scenario where it is effectively a split field, isn't it? There's quite a reasonable gap there from Brad Schumacher in 4th position. It's out to the tune of a couple of seconds now, 5 seconds, sorry. We'll go to Bailey, the gap is. So the top 8 are all running together, and then everybody 9th through to 18th are in this secondary field. Now, where is that smoke coming from there? And that's that contact that you alluded to.
So it's Konduras, not the Batsios car. So that's rubbing on the guard. So we take that back on the Batsios car. It was the Konduras Superbarn entry. More contact now down at turn 9. remember, there's still 32 minutes of racing to go here. It's not a 5-lap sprint. A couple of the invitational cars, including the Mark II Mustang there, in the wars of Jeff Taunton. He's sharing with Darren Curry for this final race. But a bit going on for the first couple of minutes.
Well, the car park scenario continues down at turn 9, doesn't it? And that tyre rubbing, look at the damage there on that left rear of the 45 entry. That won't last very long at all, so we'll keep an eye on that. I actually expected him to come in to the pit lane. So this is a replay. Lachiti. So it was Lachiti that made contact here with the back of the Earl Bamber Motorsport Porsche, not Marczini at all. Marczini was left wrong-footed. He was out wide, and that's why he was slow over the curb. Oh, I would imagine race control will have a little bit to say about that. And Lachiti will end up coming through for a drive-through. That would be my call.
This was the second verse down at the turn 9 hairpin. And punch from behind there for Taunton on the Mike Sheargold Garth Walden Mercedes-Benz at turn 9. So some drama already in the early minutes of this race. More happening here at the centre chicane, and that's Sheargold again. He's having a pretty action-packed opening few laps in the Mercedes-Benz, with a bit of a tank slapper there through the chicane.
Yeah, I always hold my breath when you see that amount of angle going on. And now we've got an issue for the number 20 Mark Carr's entry. Sounds like it's just fired back up, but you could only imagine that there's been a little bit of contact down there. Car's gone around, engine's gone out, and they've fired it back up. But it looks like we're moving along okay here. Well, a little bit happening in this first couple of laps, Nolts.
So
plenty going on. Yeah, this is where it's all calm at the front of the field here. And just have a little recap here. So on the opening lap, we had pressure coming from Talbot on Shaheen to get by, and you said the reason for that, Talbot's got a longer pit stop, so he wants to go up the road, but he hasn't been able to do that. So Shaheen leads from Talbot, 1.3 seconds over Emery, a further couple of seconds behind, and then Schumacher. Bit of pressure on Emery there with Renee Gracie in, that's our top 5. So these guys all here are all very calm at the front of the field, just going about their craft into a nice rhythm. But from there back, fished back, very, very busy on these opening few laps.
You know what it feels like? It feels like this is the first session of the day Thursday. There's limited grip out there still, and some of these cars are really struggling to get A, the tyres up to temp, B, to get some grip out there as well.
Well, and I guess to your point there, Nolts, yesterday was very wet. This morning it was a wet circuit with drying conditions as the time went on. So for a lot of these guys, it is the first time that they've come across a full dry circuit like this. And you know, we've got this AM scenario. These guys are doing an amazing job, but they're not in the pro level. So they are finding their feet, and that's where we're getting a few incidents happen. And for us watching this race, it's certainly delivering on the excitement levels, isn't it?
And they will start the race, the pro drivers, tomorrow, and will finish with the AM drivers. So a lot of pressure on them. I want to say AM drivers. They're not amateur drivers. It's just on the grading system, which is a global system out there. And people scratch their heads going, well, how come that guy is a gold and this guy's a silver and that guy doesn't even feature?
Exactly, and it's all based around an FIA grading system and your results throughout your driving career. And you know, sometimes it works for you and sometimes it works against you. And in the likes of Liam Talbot, who's currently running second here and in the fight for the championship battle, he's categorised as a bronze AM. And so in the world of FIA GT racing, he is a really highly sought commodity. And he alluded to it in Chad's interview earlier today. He's being sought after by some international teams, and it sounds like there's some opportunity there for him next year, which would be great to see him head off again. He has done some international racing. Oh, that was close. And then come back to Australia, competed in this championship, and it sounds like he's going to head back overseas again next year. So we'll keep an eye on how that folds.
Yeah, he was sort of caught out when the world went into its crazy shutdowns in 2020 and had to put his international aspirations on ice. More happening now, some desperation here, and that was inevitable. Batsios from a long way back drills the 4. We can see that coming a mile away. And now that could be game, set and match for the Volante Rosso team. And it's chugging along there, but there's damage, big damage to the left front. Now, Chris Batsios is a very talented driver. Let's look at this again. So 4th car in the shot. The Volante Rosso Motorsport Mercedes-Benz, a long way back. There's got to be more to that, AJ.
Yeah, look, Matt, I'll take a deep breath before I make any comments here, but let's have a look at this shot. It's always a little bit tough from the rear angle, but it just looks like Batsios has committed to going very deep there. He's gone really deep. Maybe there is more to that than we think, because he did veer quite hard over to the right. Now, has he just misplaced his braking marker and gone way too deep? And when you overstep that brake marker, you are committed. The laws of physics apply at some point. You've got X amount of grip from the tyre. If you brake too late, you can't stop the car any faster.
Someone has to give.
And unfortunately, that's what happens. The left front there has made contact with one of the marked cars, and there's a huge amount of damage on that car. Look, I need a little bit more information. It wasn't clear cut from the vision that we saw, but from what I did see, you know, a mistake has happened, heavy contact. Whether or not Chris Batsios is at fault or whether there's more to it, we'll find out. But one thing's for sure, that car will be parked up in pit lane with heavy damage. I don't expect to see it out again in this race.
And a shame for Jaden Ojeda, who jumps into that car as well. He's been racing with Ross Palakis for the balance of the season from the Western Australian round onwards, where they were really strong there. And Valente Rosso Motorsport claimed the Radical Cup Series just a couple of weeks back with Alex Gardner behind the wheel. They won 9 races and swept both the categories in that series. Melinda Price is also driving for that team. She had her birthday yesterday. She's here watching the action of the Velo Adelaide 500 as well, but not sure we'll see the 34 Mercedes-Benz back out, and some conversations happening down there after the incident. And you're not really hitting a curb down there. It's a gutter, isn't it, going into the hairpin at turn 9. It's Jeff Taunton keeping the helmet on. That's a pretty smart move when it comes to a heated discussion.
I was just trying to listen in, a little bit of fly on the wall moment for us to hear what that conversation was all about, and I wasn't able to catch it, but you're right, there did used to be a little bit of a gutter down there. There's been some reprofiling over the life of this circuit here, and the majority of all that is aimed at keeping all the competitors as safe as possible. So this is more textbook, that move that we just saw there, down into turn 9, no contact from anybody. Still trying to work out what's happened there to put us in the situation where Batsios made that heavier contact there. Nolts, I'm looking for an answer for you, and you know I don't like sitting on the fence. It's not my normal happy place.
That's my job usually.
Yeah, if I had an answer for you, I would give it to you, but it looked weird. There was the speed differential was too big. It'll be either a mechanical or a throttle jam, or just a missed braking marker and has gone way too deep. It'll be one of those scenarios. So let's see how if we can get some information from the pit lane.
So not too far away from the pit window opening with the 15-minute mark, which is not too far away now. The leaders making their way back up to the Adelaide hairpin here now. 10 seconds to gap back to Jeff Emery in the 75 JMEC Racing Audi. So they've stretched away already, but Talbot is still tailing Yasser Shaheen. So Shaheen with the upper hand in this race so far.
And for me, Liam Talbot has actually brought that gap down. He's halved it at the moment. Look at it when we pick up these two leaders. The Shaheen Porsche in front, the Talbot Audi running second at the minute. That gap was out to about 1.3, 1.5 seconds very early on. And Liam's just chipped away at that. And it's now down to half a second as we look at that left rear tyre there on the Batsios entry. So that'll just bit of tyre rub going on. I don't know whether that was the cause or the effect. There is some marks on the left rear corner there, so I wonder whether or not he's come down into there. That tyre's gone flat, he's jumped on the brake and the car won't stop. Who knows? I'm just theorising a lot here, mate. I'm going to have to stop. I hate open loops. I've got an open one at the moment. I'd like to close it, but speaking of closing it, this gap has come down. Liam Talbot looking very racy behind Yasser Shaheen here. Oh, a little mistake from Talbot in the background there. It's the apex, which is weird. That should be just on the throttle, steering the car. It was about half a car width wide there, so I'm not sure what that was about. I wonder whether he turned in on the marbles, but that's given Yasser a little bit of breathing space here at the front of the field. But all the work here is absolutely going to be on the pro guys, particularly when it comes to the Liam Talbot 65 entry, once he comes in to make his pit stop, because this gap inevitably is going to grow due to the longer pit stop time.
Jeff Emery has come into the pits already with the window just opened up now. So the 75 JMEC Audi will drop down the field. Brad Schumacher goes in the third spot as we head back to the tail of the field. Hasn't been busy in the other categories with inside the GT World Challenge. Paul Lucchini about to lose a position here to Marcus Flack, who was caught up in the lap 1 strip. That was close between the KFC Audi and the JMAG Audi as they do their pit stop times. 94 seconds is going to be the time overall. It's from the time you enter pit lane to the time you exit pit lane. It's not the stationary time it counts, it's how long from one point to the other.
Yeah, and that keeps it fair for everybody, doesn't it? It doesn't take into account how quickly you drop the car, how quickly the driver gets going. And so Jeff Emery has handed over to Maximilian Hopper. And when you're in Australia, we'll Aussiefy him and we'll call him Max, just for short, won't we? Affectionately known as. So he will take the reins. Big Max. He will take the reins of that Audi there. Jeff's done a sterling job at the beginning of this race, and then we'll see what Max has to do, what sort of work he can do as this race unfolds. So the two leaders are now in. We can see the Shahin Porsche, the Talbot Audi, and they'll hand over to their two respective pro drivers. So in the case of Yasser, Matt Campbell, there he is there, right on cue in the Porsche factory. Oh, and that's Max Hoffer in the background there, the second 75 Audi entry. So he's been parked in by Liam Talbot. And that's Chris Meads trying to just navigate his way in between the two cars so that he can take over from Liam Talbot. Now, there's no rush here, Nolts. That's not going to hurt their pit stop time. They've got plenty of time. It's all very calm. Very different to when we see say a Supercars Bathurst or Sandown style co-driver, primary driver change, where the faster you can do it, the quicker you can leave. These guys have got plenty of time up their sleeves. So Liam's done his job, Yasser's done his job, and then Chris Mees and Matty Campbell will duke it out.
Let's go back behind that line. The reason I grimaced there was that was 3 seconds he needed to get ahead of that car, and that's probably cost him 5 trying to get out onto the lane as Brett Hobson jumps in to the 96 Mercedes-Benz. Brad Schumacher has gone into the lead while the BP Ultimate pit lane is super busy as we work our way through the mandatory pit stops. Matt Campbell jumps into the race leading and pole position starting car from the race. Yasser Shahin, who held back the pressure, and that could be a masterstroke that gets him a victory here today.
So sometimes we talk about these mandatory pit stop times and we give you a number of 10 seconds. So we've just seen the Yasser Shahin entry. It headed off, right? And this is going to be the biggest visual gauge that we're ever going to get. So those two cars came in nose to tail, correct?
Yes.
And we've just seen Yasser, he's gone. He's up the road. He's coming down the back straight at the moment. And we just picked up in the background there, Chris Mees in that Audi. So he's nearly a third of the circuit behind the Porsche entry here with Matty Campbell at the wheel. So that's a big, big ask for Chris Mees to bridge that gap when you've got the caliber of driver of Matt Campbell absolutely wheeling this thing around the Adelaide Parkland circuit.
Garnett Patterson has been driving this car with Yasser and done a mighty fine job, if I might add, all season long. Of course, Matt Campbell comes with experience with EMA Motorsport over the years, like a lot of international names, including Felipe Nasser, as it was a late call for Marcus Flack, and David Coulthard had an incident here many years ago in Formula One, but will they judge that to enter in pit lane illegally?
Absolutely. That's a very clear-cut one within the rule book, that if you enter pit lane in that type of manner, where you do not stay on the right-hand side of the line or the floppy that's there as the indicator, then there is no questions asked, penalty given. So yes, unfortunately for young Marcus Flack, who has done a brilliant job, that will be a penalty applied. So a little bit of work, some time within the pit stop here under the rules with GT World Challenge. You can do some pressure adjustments, and that's what's going on at the left rear corner here of the Fuchs entry. Just try and breathe a little bit more life into those Pirellis.
Yeah, and you wouldn't be needing to change tyres in the short duration. These Pirelli tyres can stand long distances. You don't want to go through the whole cycle. You want to get out there with at least semi-warm tyres to get back into the race. It's car 65, the Shannon's Insurance Audi with Christopher Mees behind the wheel. No stranger to Australia or the GT World Challenge. John Goodacre goes into the lead as Brad Schumacher and Rene Gracie are in the pits. And Christopher Mees about to set the fastest lap of the race. It already is a record, 1 minute 19.835 set on the 7th lap in the hands of Liam Talbot. But the chase is on here in race 1 of the Fanatec GT World Challenge powered by AWS. Their season finale, like majority of our categories here on the streets of Adelaide at the Velo Adelaide 500. The sun is out, particularly at this part of the track, but out of our commentary box window, still rather overcast.
Yeah, and I'm just having a look at this while you give us one of your very exciting weather reports, mate. You know I love the weather, so I love it when you start talking about northerlies and southerlies. But
it's westerlies now.
And the westerlies. What I'm looking at here is that gap between Campbell and Christopher Mees. So it's out to the tune, you know, at the minute of about roughly 7 seconds, depending on where they are at the circuit at any given time. And at the minute, we just look at those last 2 laps. Chris Mees was 2.5, 3 tenths faster than Matty Campbell. So he's got some work ahead of him to bridge that gap, doesn't he? This is an old school street fight that's going on here, and it's really Christopher Mees that's going to have to dig deep here to really chase Matty Campbell down. But at the minute, he's recording purples every lap. And it's Matt Campbell that can drive a little bit conservatively here. He's got, you know, all the benefit of that large gap that he came out of the pit lane in, and all the pressure is on Mees. And it, you know, these guys are world class in terms of driver ability. They're very familiar with these scenarios. So let's not write Mees off at the moment. Let's just see what he's got and whether or not he can really get up onto the back of Matty Campbell over the next 15 minutes.
That was Axel Donaldson going the long way around at the Adelaide hairpin in car 111, part of the invitational class here at Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia. So we're watching Christopher Mees climbing through the staircase. The gap is 6.9 seconds to our race leader, as all but one have done their pit stop, confirming the 34 is out for this event. So Chris Batsios and Jaden Ojeda will have to come back again tomorrow in the final race. That's Matt Campbell through turn 8. And Mees is flying once again, just taking bites out of the race lead that the Ben Motorsport Park EMA Porsche has in this race. This is going to be a fascinating finish. 2 guns in the GT World Challenge, not just in Australia, but across the world, about to duke it out on the streets of Adelaide.
And they're the little scenarios that we can't forecast here, Noel. So I can have a look at the timing sheet all day long and tell you the difference between lap speed, but it's how the traffic is going to come into play. And that's where this category really comes alive in this situation. 15 minutes of racing. Who does the best job with navigating the traffic as they come up on it? Matty Campbell, he's just dispersed of that marked car entry. But in a minute, Chris Mees is going to have to do exactly the same job. And that's where he can make up, you know, a second and a half more in that lap than it is in terms of an outright lap-by-lap duke.
And hope and pray that they don't catch him in the worst possible spots, like here, for example, through the staircase, up through turn 4, 5 and 6. Brad Schumacher, 3rd on the track and leading the AM class once again. But this is a genuine on-track battle now between he and Maxi Hoffa. In the JMEC Audi, Schumacher lets him go. They're not fighting for class honours here. Marcus Flack's been given a 30-second time penalty, and that'll be for not entering the pits properly in the number 78 Porsche. So Hoffa goes up into 3rd, but some 21 seconds away from the Shannon's Insurance Audi, with still 14 minutes remaining in race 1 of Fanatec GT World Challenge.
It was inevitable that that penalty was going to be applied, Nolts. As I mentioned before, very clear-cut. You can see it there from that overhead shot. If you don't enter the pit lane on those yellow dotted lines, then penalties are applied. Anything after that. So look at this little battle going on here. And you know, I like this class. I love that there's big speed differentials between different categories, and this is what's going on here. This is exactly the scenario I pointed out and painted out before. Was Chris Mees, he's just been held up there. He's lost time versus how earlier in the lap, or a lap and a half ago, we saw how quickly Matt Campbell got by these guys. This has not worked in favour of Chris Mees, but at the moment, the battle, it goes in favour of Matty Campbell. And Mees looks, he looks super racy. He's hungry here. He wants to get on with it, but you've got to balance it out. You can't just throw it up the inside of these guys. And now look at this. The marked car entry, the Mustang entry, stretches its legs and it drives away from the Audi. And this is what Liam shakes his head. Yasser goes, yes, that works in our favour. Liam, he wipes his brow and goes, that's cost us more time.
And backs up our point. It's where you catch it. It'll work for one team and not the other. That stays at 6.2 seconds. 1:18.4, the quickest lap of the race by nearly a full second on the number one Porsche. As he turns around, Yasser Shahin looks confident, looks happy. 12 minutes of racing. As Matt Campbell finishes the lap and responds with his own fastest lap of the race now. 1:19.1. Gap comes down, though, to 5.9 seconds. Oh, this is setting us up nicely, AJ.
Absolutely it is, but there's more traffic in between these two cars. So let's try and just go through this a little bit more here, Nolts, and hope everybody at home is happy with how we're playing this out for you. We are just trying to paint the scenario because it's not just a straight out door-to-door race going on here. This is where this category comes into its home on a global scale. It's the same model all around the world, and this is where particularly these two guys at the high end of this category, in Matty Campbell out in front and Chris Mees, the chaser, this is where they earn their dollars, they earn their paycheck, and that is Matty Campbell doing just enough to lead this race, and Chris Mees just absolutely wringing the neck of the Audi and trying to get everything he can out of it to bridge that gap. And, well, you said before that the gap came down. Every time we go across the split, depending on where they get traffic, it has just edged back out again to around about that 6-second mark. But we do know that Christopher Mees has just bridged it by about 1.5 seconds from where it was at the end of the pit stop cycle. So it is coming down. Has he got enough time? 10.5 minutes remain. I want to say yes. I want to see the mandatory pit stop time work and end up with this grandstand finish. Yeah, because it could have been a complete dominance of over 10 seconds as he gets a bit of help there for the number 6 of John Goodacre as he goes a lap down in the invitational class entry up through the staircase. He goes 6.2 seconds and just under, or just over 10 minutes remain. It's blue sky, Andy. We haven't seen much of that in the distance over the last day and a half. So it's good to see as he powers his way down Bartels Road and uphill into turn 8, the right-hander. The scene of many classic moments here over the last quarter of a century at the Adelaide 500. He continues to go purple on this lap, so a little bit of lap traffic at the beginning of the lap for Chris Mees, but it didn't hold him up too much. It didn't hurt him a whole heap. He's gone purple through to the middle sector. So, I use those indicators. It just tells us he's hunting him down. Absolutely, no doubt. Car 23, the KFC Audi, being given a warning for exceeding track limits. It'll be down at the centre chicane. So Paul Stokel behind the wheel of the KFC number 23 Audi. They've had some class wins this year in the AM class. In fact, they're running second at the moment and only 2 seconds away from Brad Schumacher for that class. GT trophy being led by Marcus Flack, but he's going to comp 30 seconds. And actually be natural justice to put Tom McLennan back into the lead of that class with Inside Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia. A big chunk of time taken this time around, 0.8 of a second, as Campbell went 1:18.4 on the previous lap. But more lap traffic ahead for our race leader, the man who'll start from pole position tomorrow in the second race of the GT World Challenge. And it's not a good spot for Matt to be catching this lap traffic because really it's one line through this little section here. You've got to be careful, particularly in these types of scenarios where you're just rounding up some of those AM guys. That was a really nice job to get out of the way. But again, he just hasn't bridged that gap enough through that little section to be able to open the legs of the Porsche and drive around the Mercedes up ahead. He's going to catch him through this next little turn 1-2 phase, which we know there's a lot of time to be lost there. He really needs to get by the Mercedes up ahead before we get to this staircase section. Otherwise, he's going to lose more and more time here, Nolts. This is cool. Here's the third place man, Maxi Hoffa, going past Axel Donaldson in the Mark II Mustang out of the Adelaide hairpin. But he's still 22 seconds away in third position, so he's racing himself and the clock at the moment.
Here's the race leader, Matt Campbell, Christopher Mees on another flyer. 4.6 seconds and 7.5 minutes of racing still to go.
So there it is, visually. Matt Campbell, here comes Chris Mees. So he's lost about a second, a bit over a second on that lap alone, Matty Campbell. And he's dispersed of that traffic, and now it works the other way. It's in favour of Chris Mees here because he's gotten around some of the slower traffic in that same lap that Matt Campbell lost all that time. So, oh, this gets a little bit spicy here, Noel.
I like this. I like it a lot. Mees about to reset the lap record here. Two-time Bathurst 12-hour winner back in 2011 and 2012. And chasing, you'll be able to see the Porsche. There it is in the distance. There's a lap car in between. Back to 3.8 seconds at a 1:18.0. He was 1.2 seconds quicker that lap alone. But remember, the one had traffic.
And that's what Chris Mees has to deal with this time round. But at the minute, it doesn't look like it's hurting Chris too much. And you can't preempt this stuff, Nolts. You know, there we go. Look again. Matty Campbell, he's just been held up by the hallmark entry of Mark Sini in the Audi. Now, Mark will be well and truly aware of Chris Mees behind him. They are coming from the same team. So I expect Mark Sini to get out of the way here as soon as Chris Mees gets onto the back of him. So that gap now, Nolts, 3 seconds. It's coming down. It's all in favour of Chris Mees. There we go. Mark Sini, he gets out of the way. No hold up at all for Chris Mees. And look at the gap visually up ahead. It's on.
It is on.
It's on here.
He didn't catch the cars on the bottom of the Kettleville Terrace, but there is the leader. Lap car in between. Then our second place man, Christopher Mees. 5 minutes and 40 seconds of racing on the streets of Adelaide in race 1 of the GT World Challenge. It's going to go right down to the wire. The different moods down in the pit lane. There was a smile there a few moments ago from Yasser Shahin. And Liam Talbot, pensive down there at the Shannon's Insurance pit. But knows he's got a capable driver, but so too is Yasser Shahin right now.
How's the shift in body language between the two cabs down in the pit lane? A couple of minutes ago, we got that split shot. Yasser was looking very relaxed, very jovial. And we saw Liam Talbot wiping his brow going, oh man, this is not working for us. And then that shot we just saw there was the complete opposite, wasn't it? Chris Mees flashing. That is the GT universal language for please move over. Now coming through at a rapid rate. Oh, that's hurt Mees a little bit. He would have had to have just lost a little bit of time, but likewise for Matty Campbell. He wasn't able to get past. Was that one of the Mark cars again up ahead? No, it was one of the Porsches of Marcus Flack. So we know Marcus is going fast, but he's not going as fast as Matt Campbell up ahead. So that gap again has just gone out in favour of Matty Campbell. So he's opened it up to the tune of about half a second, and now it's come back down in favour of Chris Mees. I feel like I've got a metaphorical rubber band in my hand here that I keep stretching and then letting go, and then stretching and letting go. And that's exactly what's happening here between these two guys. And that's why it's super exciting, this type of racing for me. You cannot pick it. You cannot pick who is going to keep that gap open and who is going to win this at the moment. It certainly looks like it's going to go in favour of Matt Campbell, but it can turn very, very quickly.
So Flack just ahead here of the Shannon's Insurance Audi, gets out the way right in time. It hasn't cost him any time, and now it's clear racetrack ahead. That's the race leader steaming up towards turn number 8 with Matt Campbell behind the wheel. John Goodacre, incidentally, has been given a 117-second penalty for missing the pit stop window in the Invitational class. So a mistake there from the team, failed to get it done in time. So it's the minimum time plus a 30-second penalty. But we'll focus on this. Mees, 3.1 seconds. They just continue to punch out 118s after 118s with lap cars in the mix. And 3 minutes to go when they come past the control line. Next time by, gaps out to 27 seconds. So our third place man, Maxi Hoffa. Brad Schumacher runs in 4th and leads the AM class by 3 seconds back to Paul Stokel.
And that lap tells the story for me, Matt, is that Matt Campbell, he has a little bit up his sleeve at the moment. He's just recorded his fastest lap of the race at an 18.3. Chris Mees' fastest lap of the race is an 18.0. So Matt's just, I wouldn't say being conservative. He's doing what he needs to do to win this race. And it's Chris Mees that's on the attack. But we just see now Matt Campbell, he's turned the wick up a little bit. He's willing, with 3 minutes to go, or 2.5 minutes to go, to absolutely wring the neck of that Porsche, with Chris Mees hunting him down in the background. But Mees has got purple, so he's doing the same.
He's going to catch him here. But Matt Campbell made this Porsche as wide as possible. 2 minutes to go, plus a lap.
I'm not sure he's going to get to him, but I am going to will him along to try, that's for sure, because that's the end that we want to see here, isn't it? But I think Matt's going to have just enough speed out of that car at the moment. If they go toe-to-toe, outright pace is in favour of Chris Mees, but that gap is just a little bit too big at the moment for him to close it.
Down to the centre chicane. 24 laps in the books of the Bob Jane Team Arts curb cam as the sun shows a bit of blue sky for us for the first time, and we're bathed in sunshine on Wakefield Street. 2.7 seconds and a 1:17.6 that time for Mees. 1:17.86. 3/10 quicker than Campbell. Up through Flinders into Hutt Street. Closing minute of this race. It's exactly how they designed this series.
It's exactly what it's meant to do. You're right, they're meant to be able to look at the categorisation of the two drivers and work out based on that what their speed level is at. And this is the scenario that we should see towards the end of the race, is the faster guys hunting down, you know, guys that arguably, based on where they sit within the FIA categorisation, that we end up with this scenario, and it builds towards the end of the race, and we end up with these grandstand finishes. Sometimes it works in their favour and sometimes it doesn't. But what we do is we build the excitement and we build these battles where you end up with pro guys today hunting each other down, and then we flip that tomorrow. The pro guys will start the race and then we'll end up with the AM guys hunting each other down.
We're here to sell the drama, Andy Jones, alongside me for this with 17 seconds remaining. We'll do a bit of a waiter here and show you how far back. It's 28 seconds to our third place man, Maxi Hoffa, behind the wheel of the JMEC Audi in third position. He's got 5 seconds back to Brad Schumacher in the Fuchs Audi. Paul Stokel is only Stokel now. He's dropped away some 4 seconds. So that'll be first and second in the AM class. Hoffa to the finish line. And settling for third, he's got no choice. The two out in front have just been trading fastest laps. It's been fascinating to watch. Incidentally, car 6 has had that black flag withdrawn for the mandatory pit stop time. Rare you hear that, but the team are arguing that they have performed that time. So we'll clear that up before race 2 tomorrow.
Suggests maybe a little timing error when they came into the pit lane, but yeah, not very often that you hear a penalty like that or a black flag be withdrawn from race control, so there's definitely more to that. But here's this championship battle. It's between these two guys at the front of the field. They've been drafted in and they are absolutely delivering here.
So there we go. Should be on the final lap now as he clears Paul Lucchini. I'm going to say Renee Gracie's effort. She's third in the AM class and 6th outright in a debut run in the Audi Evo 2 after winning the trophy class race. She was up there in the top 3 yesterday in practice, and Mees hesitated for a moment on going past the Lucchini Audi at the top of Wakefield Street. 2.1 seconds. They've both been in the 17s. There's more traffic to come.
And they're the awkward moments that can very quickly turn this race upside down, and we've seen a couple of little moments here that these two marked cars up ahead, the Invitational class, one marked car and the Porsche, they have a fair amount of legs and horsepower on these full-blown GT3 cars. So Matt Campbell down the inside of the Porsche without any dramas, but the Invitational marked car is holding him up. Here comes Mees in the background.
He's in a sandwich. He needs to clear it. That should be just about enough. He's cleared him, and flash the headlights all you like, but I don't think it's going to help now. Matt Campbell, the superstar that he is, is going to win race number 1 in a fascinating Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia race by just on 2 seconds. Make it a second and a half at the finish line. Really entertaining stuff. Help with a few lap cars in the end. And Campbell showing you why he's world class. They dropped away, AJ, into the 19s in that final lap. But Matt Campbell and Yasser Shahin strike gold in the penultimate race of the Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia.
Yeah, and kudos to Matt Campbell. You're right, he is absolutely world class, but we need to pay some credit to Chris Mees as well, because he's absolutely up to the challenge. Part of the Audi factory squad. He's been sent on a plane out here along with Matt Campbell so that those two guys can help seal the championship for one of either Yasser Shahin or Liam Talbot.
Fantastic result. Shahin and Campbell winning from Talbot and Mees by 1.5 seconds at the end of race 1. Emery and Hoffer home for third, a long way back though. Brad Schumacher will collect the AM class win ahead of Stupas and Stokel. And there I go again, AJ. Gracie home for 6 today with Bailey and Hobson back there in the mix as well. And a couple of DNFs. So what was a fairly wild opening couple of laps in the Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia. Really